Good afternoon, everybody. We are here for the remembrance of Petty Officer, First Class Regina R. Clark, and for the dedication of this bridge to honor her and all our fallen heroes in armed forces, past and present. Regina and I were true, loyal friends. It has been my endeavor over the past 16 months to recognize her, not only as a fallen warrior, but to honor her friendship and her immense contribution to our community and to our nation, God, and country. We have some fine people here today who will speak of Regina. I would like to speak about doing the right thing. Much time has been spent communicating and pushing forth this endeavor. The one question that I've always asked is why? And my response has always been because it is the right thing to do. In my reading, I have come across writings of the Honorable Padre Pio, the saint of healing and hope. I'd like to share a few of his words. Make a particular effort to practice sweetness and submission to the will of God, not only in extraordinary matters, but even in the little things that occur daily. Make these acts not only in the morning, but also during the day and in the evening with a tranquil and joyful spirit. And if you should fail in this, humble yourself, make a new proposition, get up and continue on your way. We must always recognize and do the right thing in all aspects of our lives. I'm proud to stand with all of you as we do the right thing to honor Regina and all of our fallen heroes. At this point, I would like to introduce Chaplain Lieutenant Ryan Smith, United States Navy, for an opening prayer. Thank you.
Let us pray. Loving Creator, we pray that the memory of Culinary Specialist First Class Petty Officer Regina Clark be ever sacred in our hearts, that the sacrifice which she has offered for our country's cause may be revered as an example of greater love. It is written that greater love has no person, but that they lay down their life for their friends. We are here today to honor her and ensure that her memory lives on for generations to come. Bless us this day. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Mr. Johnny Dunnigan, who will sing America the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. oh beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that streams beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Thank you, Chaplain. Thank you, Mr. Dunnigan. It's a lovely rendition. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our first guest speaker today is retired Rear Admiral Paula Brown. Admiral Brown capped a 34-year Navy career as the Deputy Commander of Naval Facilities Engineering Command, and in 2005-2006 served as the commander of the Naval Construction Regiment, the 30th Naval Construction Regiment, with service in Iraq. It's my pleasure to introduce Rear Admiral Paula Brown.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do this, but because there's so many people from NMCB 18, writing. Thank you. Thank you very much, Captain Brooks. And I'd like to thank a few others before I really get started. I truly want to thank the Washington State Transportation Commission, Commissioners Joe Tortorelli is here, and Edna Fund, for your thoughtfulness in honoring Petty Officer Regina Clark, our fallen Navy Seabee. Representative Orcutt will always be indebted to you for initializing this legislation. Your actions will ensure that Petty Officer Regina Clark will be remembered throughout this community. Also, thanks to Joseph Amell for his diligence and consideration, and to Petty Officer Anthony Bennett for his help in organizing speakers and making the call to me and several others to help commemorate this dedication. To the Patriot Guard riders, thank you for respecting a shipmate and for setting the flag line honoring Petty Officer Clark's memory. There are just some people that make this world a better place to live in. Regina Clark was one of those people. I was fortunate enough to know her and remember her and for what she did for so many others. CS1 Clark, known to many of you out there as Reggie, was one of my sailors in our Washington-based Seabee Battalion, Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 18 out of Fort Lewis, Washington. I first met her when I was a fairly new executive officer, 97, excuse me, and she was still with the battalion when I went back in 1999. CS1 always excelled. She always went the extra mile, but was best known for making some of our field exercises just a little more special by finding innovative ways to make cinnamon rolls and other delicious treats from the rations we were provided. Converting from a logistics specialist to culinary specialist was pretty easy for CS1. Petty Officer Clark loved her job. She loved serving. She loved being a part of something bigger than herself. She made you feel like you mattered, no matter who you were. I'll never forget the day that she bounded in front of me. We were being mobilized for Operation Iraqi Freedom, and there were about 75 sailors had gathered in February 2005 in Port Hueneme, California. I'll admit now to being a little out of my element and perhaps a bit flustered faced with our daunting task. But Regina came in with that smile that only she had, jumped in front of me. She was unflappable, saying, "Hi, ma'am, remember me? I get to serve with you again." That was Regina. She gave me perspective. She was so positive, so enthusiastic, so willing to be a part of this super regiment that Captain Blunt and I were fortunate to command. Yet, really, it was all of us that were so lucky to serve with her. CS1 Clark radiated service to others. She sparkled energy and charisma. She helped build camaraderie, support, and confidence in other sailors. She served and helped others succeed. CS1 Clark deployed to Iraq with Commodore Blunt and was hoping to stay on for the second half when I was to relieve that initial push, but I did not get there in time. Regina Clark died June 23rd, 2005, in between my pre-deployment site visit and returning to take the regiment. Her community of Centralia mourned her passing at her funeral. Her mother, Mrs. Melita Fountain, and son Carrie were devastated at the news, but so proud of her service in the Navy and to our nation. Centralia turned out in patriotic fashion and honored their own. I was proud to be a very small part of that ceremony. Today we continue our honor and tribute to Petty Officer Clark. We will be able to think of her every day as we go over the Skookumchuck River on the new first-class Petty Officer Regina Clark Bridge. Regina will continue to serve and bridge new gaps as she did for her Seabees. Honor, courage, and commitment are not just 3 words. They are 3 words that provide meaning to the service of Petty Officer Regina Clark. Meaning to her life, and a commemoration of how she touched the lives of so many of us. It is hard to believe that we just celebrated 18 years since the 9/11 terror attacks. We are still engaged with a war with Iraq and Afghanistan. Our service members are still actively serving to ensure freedoms for other countries. We all took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Yet, it is so much more than that. We took the oath because we believe in service to our country and to protecting the freedoms we dearly believe in. We took the oath to serve. We will not let our fellow service members down. Thank you to Regina Clark. You made it all worthwhile. You made a difference with your service. We will not forget. Again, thank you sincerely to the Washington Transportation Commission, Representative Orcutt, Commissioner Edna Fund, Mr. Amell, and the entire community of Centralia. Your actions ensure Petty Officer Regina Clark will never be forgotten.
Thank you, Admiral Brown. It is now my pleasure to introduce the District 1 County Commissioner, Ms. Edna Fund. Mrs. Fund has been a strong advocate at Commission and Senate meetings to accomplish the bridge renaming.
Thank you. In going through the crowd and talking with former co-workers, I'm going to call her Reggie, because R-E-G-I, that's the way she had it. That's the way she wanted it. And when I understand when Reggie entered a room, everyone knew she was there. She had this outstanding personality. And she also, when she worked at Fuller's, she got things done. She organized things, and she made that store's bakery a wonderful place to go to. Earlier this week, I went to DC, and when I was in Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler's office, I asked if I could have a flag that's from Washington, DC to give to her family. And we will do so, and I will be giving it to Joe to take over to Eastern Washington to provide it to her son. So thank you for folks who enable us to bring flags. Look at all these flags today. When I was coming on that bridge today, I thought, and I saw everybody out there, I brought tears to my eyes. And I think in the future, as we go over this bridge, and when you take your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, tell them the story about Reggie. Tell them about the Centralia girl, woman, co-worker, who went to war and did her best, and that she gave her life for her country. So remember that bridge? It's over the Skookumchuck River, but it's the Regina Clark Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fund. It is now my pleasure to introduce State Representative Mr. Ed Orcutt, who represents Washington's 20th District and is a member of the House Transportation Committee. Mr. Orcutt introduced the legislation that ensured the bridge could be renamed.
First of all, I want to say thank you for all of you who are here today. I know some of you have traveled short distances, some have traveled great distances to be here. And, you know, just like Commissioner Fund, when I came across the bridge and saw everyone here, it really touched me. The whole time that I've gone through this process, from the time that Joe brought me the idea, working it through committee, interviews with the press, getting it across the House floor, getting it heard in the Senate, and going through this whole process, I always tried to make sure that this wasn't just about a bill, that this was about somebody so important as Regina Clark and the contribution that she's made to her community and to her country. And as hard as I tried to do that, I never got as far in that endeavor as I got when I crossed that bridge on the way here today. It really hit home. Seeing all of you here, meeting some of the people that served with her, people coming from down in Oregon, people coming from Linwood, Washington, people coming from Florida to be here, to honor her, speaks so highly of the person we're honoring today. And so I really want to say thank you to all of you who came out. It amazes me. I've spoken at several Memorial Day services. I've spoken at many Veterans Day services, and I've never seen a crowd this big. In fact, I don't think I've seen a crowd that even rivals half this big. So this really speaks so loudly of what kind of a person she was and how much her community and those who served with her felt about her. I do want to thank a lot of people actually for this. I'm probably the least important person in this whole process. I probably am the one who's least deserving of being up here speaking because I never knew Regina. But I do want to thank Joe for starting the process because he's the one that brought the idea. And most bills that are brought forward, most things that are done in the state legislature are not ones that the legislators bring. It's one that our constituents bring to us, and we shepherd them through on behalf of our constituents. And I was so pleased that he came to me, and I got to be the one that has the honor of moving this bill through. But I want to thank my legislative assistant, who was right down here, Tori, put your hand up so everybody can see. there's a lot that goes into getting bills passed. When we have people coming up to testify, she's good about telling them how to get to the Capitol, where to park, how to get shuttled in, getting them down, getting them signed into the committee rooms, and making sure that if there are materials that need to be presented, that she's putting those together and getting them there. And she keeps, she keeps my schedule for me. So she's done a lot of work to help us get here today too. So thank you, Tori, for that. I don't always agree with a lot of my colleagues in the state legislature, but this is one where we got it right. There was no argument. It was a very simple process moving this through. One of the things that I think our country has started to do very well, that maybe they didn't do so well about 40 years ago, was segregating their opinions about whether or not we should be in a particular war from how they feel about our military personnel. And whether people agreed with the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, they still believe in our military personnel. And they still have a great love, a great respect, and a great appreciation. And that crosses party lines. And so I want to thank my colleagues in the state legislature. I also want to thank the folks on the Transportation Commission. I want to thank DOT for the work that they've done to put the signs together and to coordinate all of the getting it put on the bridge. There is work, there is expense that goes on to this, but I think it's a very, very small price to pay. But I do really appreciate DOT's work in this as well. I think it's very important that we remember our military personnel. I so greatly appreciate what they've done for us. And I recognize, and I hear people use the term, thank you for your service. Somebody once thanked me for my service in the state legislature, and suddenly it's hard for me to say thank you for your service to a military person, because I think the contribution you make is so much greater than that I make. So I want to say thank you for what I really want to say thank you for, and that's for protecting our freedom, for protecting us from enemies who want to do harm to us. Thank you for your willingness to go to foreign soil and liberate other countries and provide them the same freedoms that we enjoy. We know that freedom is not free, and the fact that we're here today honoring somebody who was lost in conflict is a constant reminder. And I think it's important that we name facilities for our fallen heroes. Those of you who drive up and down I-5, sometimes along the way, a few places along the way, you'll see a sign that says the Purple Heart Trail. I think it's important that we have those signs as constant reminders that freedom is not free. That as we go about our daily lives, there are people that are putting themselves in harm's way so that we can continue to go about our daily lives without fear of attack, with those freedoms that we enjoy. And I think it's even more important that we name them after specific people who have made such contributions, who have been so important to the people that they've served with, so important to the people in their communities. So that we remember it's not just a group of people, but it's individuals. It's our neighbors, it's our friends that are going and doing that for all of us. So I'm probably the least important person speaking up here today, but I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to be the one. It's an honor for me to have shepherded this bill through and to work with the commission to get us to this point today. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for all that you do, especially those who are either active duty military or veterans. Thank you for all you've done for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Orcutt, for those words. I appreciate it. It's now my pleasure to introduce Commissioner Joe Tortorelli, excuse me, sir. Mr. Tortorelli serves on the Washington State Transportation Commission and took action to complete naming the bridge for Regina Clark. Sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow patriots, it's a great honor to be here to dedicate the bridge. I am one of 7 commissioners on the Transportation Commission. Roy Jennings, I understand, is also, there he is. He's our commissioner from Vancouver. I'm from Spokane. We are both veterans, retired veterans on the commission. I spent many years at Washington Air National Guard, and Roy was a Marine. So it gives us great honor to dedicate these facilities. We're tasked by the state legislature in order to certify naming of state facilities. The legislature passed a bill to name this bridge. We then followed on and certified it. At this point, I'd like to read the resolution, which we voted on when was it? July 16th, 2019. Excuse me, I'm going to have to put on my specs. Okay. Resolution 737, whereas Petty Officer First Class Regina Clark served in Desert Storm and Operation Iraqi Freedom. And whereas Regina Clark was a single mother, avid softball player, and a loved and respected member of our Lewis County community. Whereas Regina Clark was killed in combat on June 23, 2005, when a suicide car bomber and gunman ambushed the convoy she was traveling in. Whereas Regina Clark was the first Lewis County resident to be killed in Iraq. And whereas 66th legislature passed Substitute House Joint Memorial 4007 requesting that the Transportation Commission commence proceedings to designate the bridge over the Skookumchuck River on State Route 507 between milepost 4 and milepost 5 as the Regina Clark Memorial Bridge to honor her service. And whereas the Washington State Transportation Commission concurs that it is important and appropriate to honor the service and sacrifice of the men and women who have been killed in action or wounded in combat. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Washington State Transportation Commission does hereby name the Skookumchuck River Bridge on State Route 507 from milepost 4 to milepost 5 the Petty Officer First Class Regina R Clark Memorial Bridge. Now, therefore, be it further resolved that the Washington State Transportation Commission requests the Washington State Department of Transportation to provide signing reflecting this naming designation as soon as possible. Adopted this 16th of July, 2019. Thank you very much.
Commissioner shared that this resolution will go to her son, so he'll have that as a memorial at this event. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my privilege to introduce our last speaker for today's ceremony. Retired Captain Michael Blunt is you know of his service recently with the CV Memorial Scholarship Association, and also you know that he was the commander of the 30th Naval Construction Regiment in Iraq in 2005 and 2006. He was CS1 Regina Clark's commander at that time, and again, it's my privilege to introduce Captain Retired Michael Blunt.
All right, as a previous company commander, battalion commander, regimental commander, loosen up a little bit because you've been standing for at least 25 minutes. So everyone holding the flags, just kind of bend your knees. I don't want anybody falling out. I'm not going to talk that long, but I don't want you falling out. I'm Mike Blunt. I was the Commodore of the 30th Naval Construction Regiment, the unit Petty Officer Clark was assigned to in Iraq. We combined with Admiral Brown, then Captain Brown's regiment, to form a super regiment, and completed deployment in Iraq 2005 and 2006. We had over 2,000 Seabees and Army engineers assigned to our unit. I'm very grateful to be here to remember and honor CS1 Regina Clark, a Seabee warrior and an American hero. For those who worked so hard to make this happen, thank you very much.
Yes. Yes.
I hope that the people of Centralia and the area, when they see the bridge dedication in the future years, will look up the story and remember her sacrifice. So I'm here to tell you the story. And I think back to William Schmucker, who was my grandmother's brother. And I stayed in her house, and there was a picture of a doughboy in the room I stayed in. And that's the only thing I wanted from her estate. He died in World War I, got married and deployed the next day, died in World War I. To this day, I'm the only person who knows who William Schmucker is. We don't know how he died, we don't know his story. And it makes me sad. So I want to make sure that everyone knows her story and the sacrifices she made, and hopefully you can pass that on. When people cross the bridge, they'll realize the sacrifice that Professor Clark made. So we were part of the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force in Al-Anbar province in Iraq, the most dangerous province, and the Marines had 1/4 of the real estate that had all the work. The Army got everything else. The 30th had detachments in Fallujah, Al-Taqaddum, Ramadi, and Al-Assad. Professor Clark, Admiral Cariola, raise your hand please. Captain Brooks, your MC. Admiral Brown and I were all there at the time, stationed in Fallujah, along with Master Chief Van Gundy, who I just saw again, who was on duty when that occurred. Master Chief Van Gundy, raise your hand for everybody to see. We were in a forward operating base outside the city of Fallujah. If you remember the news from then, Fallujah was a powder keg. Many battles occurred in Fallujah. We were maybe 5 miles outside in a camp protected by the Marine Corps, so we were pretty safe. And it's the site of the Marine Corps headquarters. Within the city of Fallujah, we were repairing and restoring power, repairing and restoring water and wastewater services, removing debris from the numerous battles, and repairing and restoring key city buildings. Inside our base, Petty Officer Clark basically ran our hotel services. We had NMCB-1 was in our camp. The 30th staff was in our camp. She made sure we were properly fed and berthed at all time. She was doing what her rate said she should do as a culinary specialist. She took care of all of us. I remember her walking the spaces. Now, she was a 43-year-old first-class petty officer and had no real need for officers, is the best way to put it. So, as I would walk and talk to her, she would just like look at me like, why are you in my way? Why are you talking to me? But I remember her clearly for that. Outside our camp, there was a growing demand that, if not addressed, would affect the mission and operations of the Marines. See, there was a local custom that prohibited men from searching women. To respect these customs, lioness teams were formed from female Marines, sailors, soldiers, and airmen. Current day, and they still exist, they're called female engagement teams, FETs, and are active now in Iraq and Afghanistan and other Mideast areas engaged in the global war against terrorism. The lionesses were constantly in harm's way. Petty Officer Clark recognized the need and the demand, and she went beyond the call of duty and became a lioness. She didn't become a lioness on her first attempt. She put in a request chit to do it and was denied because she was needed for our camp. She was needed to take care of the 30th. But the Marine Corps General Johnson, put out a call and said, we have to have these folks. The women and children cannot move in and out of the city without them. And if you have women, Seabees, sailors, airmen, Marines, You need to let them do this duty. So we approved her second chit, a request chit to become a lioness. She was so proud to be part of such an elite unit and got great fulfillment for serving a much needed mission for the U.S. Marines and the people of Fallujah. After serving a while as a lioness, on the 23rd of June 2005, just another day serving the mission, she and the lionesses were returning from duty and a suicide bomber laid in wait. I was outside our headquarters that day and heard the explosion. It was in the afternoon. Master Chief Van Gundy was on duty, and we hoped it was just a controlled explosion taking care of extra ordnance. It was a planned attack, and the lionesses were their target. In addition to Petty Officer Clark, 2 Marine lionesses and 3 male Marines died in the bombing attack. It is one of the deadliest attacks against the Marines in Operation Iraqi Freedom and against women warriors. Al-Qaeda took credit for the bombing. And if you've been following the news, our U.S. Air Force just took out Osama bin Laden's son, who wanted to be the new lead of Al-Qaeda. The battle's not over. She was a CB warrior. She was brave. She was courageous. She stepped up when our nation needed her most. She is a hero. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we invite any from the community, from the military personnel present, who may want to share an anecdote or story from your memory with the assembled guests here today.
I'll start. I'm going to talk about a story from last century. In big crowds, I like to use common denominators, so I'm going to have to rely on Disney. Disney makes great fairy tales about princesses. So, received many calls and emails and text messages from sailors, Seabees, and Marines that couldn't be here today. And they asked me to just tell a brief story. So years ago, there was a group of us checking into the command. And Desert Storm, humanitarian actions, things like this. And we checked into this command, and we were checking into Petty Officer First Class Clark. And most of us were prior service, bunch of young alphas, know everything. And she was looking at us, and if you think of the Disney movie Mulan, there's a song that she was probably singing in her head when she looked at us. And the song is, "I'll make a man out of you." That's what Petty Officer Clark was to us. Petty Officer Clark, as the captain said, did not need superiors. She did need peers, and she did need support. And that's where everybody came in. So blood has been referred to as the Red River of Life. Blood and liquids, blood and rivers are liquids. Naming this bridge is something that joins or connects. This bridge for Reggie joins this community with Seabees, shipmates, and Marines. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen, and Reggie was a good friend of mine. We met in 2006 at All Navy volleyball camp, and just from the beginning we connected and had fun, and so you can see her great big smile. And it seemed our connection just carried on. And then we ended up, she was stationed at Treasure Island, and I was at Naval Hospital, Oakland. And as it's been said, she was very active in sports, and I was too. And it was kind of fun competing against each other from Treasure Island and Oakland Naval Hospital. And we both loved to dance. So if we didn't have a tournament or a game, and sometimes even after that, we would be out somewhere dancing because we just loved it. I moved back to Washington after active duty and joined the reserves in Tacoma. And it wasn't long after that, Reggie calls me and says, guess where I'm gonna live? And it was Centralia, obviously, and I was like, no way, nobody knows where that is.
Right?
And so it was great to be able to be in touch, being in Fleet Hospital together, and just be able to be friends but comrades. And indeed, she was a very hard worker in the military as a single parent. It just amazed me how she knew how to communicate with Carrie at a very young toddler age, because he was a handful for her. And she never gave up, never said poor me. She just worked hard. We didn't take the time before she left. We were both kind of off and on active duty, recalled again. And I regretted we didn't make that time. So I encourage you, you have a friend, relative, next door neighbor, you know, going on a big trip, could be a fireman volunteering for a forest fire, to be military, take that time. Meet in the middle somewhere. Her mom, she was a gem, strong German lady, and it was really fortunate that she got to live next door to Reggie in her little trailer. And I know Reggie liked having her close. And I had visited her quite a few times after the events. And one time she told me about, it was early on, as those that know her on a personal level, she loved dogs, even recruited one from overseas. And she had told me that dogs stayed on the perimeter day in and day out. She had to take the perimeter of the property. So her mother, Melita, had to take the food out to the dog. I'm sure he's waiting for Mom to come home. Anyway, great friend, and I love her dearly. Think of her often, and know she loved dogs, and so I have a 13-and-a-half-year-old Shih Tzu named Reggie. Thank you, and God bless you all.
I'm going to keep this real quick. My name's Scott Marshall. I had the honor of serving 31 years in the Navy. I was stationed with Reggie back in Pearl, had to be in '87. A lot of good memories of playing sports. We were both on the co-ed softball team. Great athlete, great friend. It's been said her smile just lit up the room. If you knew her, you knew that. You knew when she was around. Anyway, I just want to say, I've served with a lot of sailors in my career. Reggie was by far one of the best sailors I've ever met and had the privilege of serving with. I would thank you all for coming out and honoring her.
Morning. My name's PO1 Alvarez. I was with Reggie in Fallujah, and probably the last CB to speak to her. Reggie was an awesome person, and to expound on the story about the dog, as Petty Officer Sandy, and Reggie told me our plans to get Sandy back to the United States, and I helped build the crate to get her back over here, and we went back and forth through emails, and she always kind of said, well, I would ask, what does Sandy need? She said, well, Petty Officer Sandy needs to turn around in the box to get back to the States. She needs to be able to turn around, stand up, turn around. So I built it to her specifications, and before she went out to the ECP in Fallujah, she was in need of a door for the ECP, entry control point. For those of you who don't know what that is, they needed a door badly for where they were working, and so I built her one. Which unfortunately was when she came back. That was it was on that transport going when she came back, and her and Petty Officer Dondi, who couldn't be here, they were rotating in and out, and Dondi got pulled early, and Clark took her place. But Clark, Petty Officer Clark, was unbelievably in. I remember one time when I went to take care of Sandy. Come back, and Sandy was loose. She's out running around in our compound, and Reggie couldn't get a hand on her. Just Sandy kept running, and so finally I laid down in the sand and put some hot dogs or something, some kind of meat to get Sandy to come to me. And Reggie said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to get Sandy back over here," and I laid there for a minute, and sure enough, Sandy come up and ran up, and I got a hand on her. She said, "I never thought about that." I said, "Well, sometimes you gotta think like a dog. She wants food, she just don't want to take it from your hand while you're standing there." And but that was Reggie. I appreciate all y'all coming out and honoring her. I personally traveled from New Orleans to come up here, and. Sorry.
Hi there, my name is Ronnie Jensen, and this is my friend Wendy. We knew Reggie when she first moved to Centralia. We met her. There was a group of women that played softball together. So if any of you ever have played sports, you know how much time you spend together, going to tournaments, hanging out. You become a very strong family. Many of us were younger, didn't have kids yet. Some of us did, but we spent a lot of time with Reggie. And I'm not going to stand up here and say that Reggie was sweet, because I really wouldn't use that word to describe her. She's looking down and shaking her head. She was a pain in my ass, quite honestly. And I love her more than anything, but nobody told Reggie what to do. Not on the softball field, not as a friend, and probably not in any part of her life, as from what I hear today. But we have so many stories, and as we've talked amongst ourselves, since she's been gone, there really aren't too many that are appropriate to share with you folks. But after we lost Reggie, we all got together, many of us that played either on the same team or that played against us, rivals, whatnot, and we put together a team of really old folks playing softball. And this was Reggie's shirt that we had made. And we went up, and oddly enough, we actually won some games, and I don't think there were any injuries. Were there? No? Okay, good. I don't think there were any injuries. Although when Reggie played with us, there was always an injury. It usually was her, because she played harder than anybody I'd ever seen. Sometimes she was the oldest on the team, and she still played harder than anybody and was one of the best softball players I've ever seen. And that woman was dedicated. She was loyal. She loved her son more than anything. When Joe started this, he wanted to make sure, and I appreciate this, Joe, that he had the blessing of Carrie. So I got the opportunity to track Carrie down and talk to him, and he said that there was nothing more that he would like for his mom, for everybody to remember her and remember what she gave, not just to him, not to this community, but to this country. And during our softball tournament, it was odd. We were all sitting around the tree talking about her. And we looked down and someone found this little piece of like burlap, and it has a number 5 on it. Number 5 was always Reggie's number. So we always held on to it, felt like it was a sign that she was still there with us. And I believe that she's here with us today too. So thank you all for coming and honoring our friend.
Hi, my name is Walt. I don't know Reggie at all, but I would like to say thank you to Beta Lewis County for spending all the time cleaning the bridge. And another thing, we've got all these flags, and I have not heard anybody say, do the Pledge of Allegiance. Why not? Would everybody please stand? Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for those remarks. At this time, it's my privilege to reintroduce Chaplain Smith, who will lead us in a moment of silence and then close us with a benediction.
Let us take a moment and honor the words that have been spoken today and to honor the memory of our dear shipmate. Let us pray. Eternal Father, we commend to you the memory of CS1 Regina Clark. May you continue to guide her on her journey along your eternal shores. Let all who see her name know of her honor, courage, and commitment. We say to our departed shipmate, fair winds and following seas. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending today's event. I'd like to also recognize Lauren Ackerman and the Lewis County Abate Motorcycle Organization. Fire Marshal Richard Mack and the Riverside Fire Authority. Mr. Johnny Dunnigan and Mr. Peter Lehman. And thank you again to all of our volunteers who made today's event possible. The final event for today, after we ask our guest speakers to disembark the bed, is to unveil the new signage. So I'd ask you to make your way forward if you like, and we will conclude today's ceremony with unveiling the signage that will go on the newly named bridge. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending today.
One, two, three.
There's pens that are in the back of these that you can sign your name on it, and then we'll put a lacquer finish over it so it'll last for the rest of the day. All right. Sweet. Please come back and join us.